Hello, this is Lisa with Old Orchid Yarnery, and I'm here today to show you how to do the August Block Party crocheted block. We're using Mosaic Crochet. This is going to be the finished product. You're going to use two different colors. Isn't it beautiful? Mosaic Crochet is a really fun technique. There's different ways to do it. To crochet it flat, however, you're starting with yarn on the right hand side, and you're crocheting across, and then you cut your yarn, and then you come back to the right hand side and you join a new yarn and you crochet across and you cut your yarn. So the end result of that is a beautiful product. You also have quite a few ends, as you can see here, that you need to figure out what you're going to do with them. In some projects you can turn them into a fringe. I have a Mosaic Crochet bag in the shop as a sample that has fringe on it, and that's because those ends didn't need to be woven in. We just turned it into a fringe on the bag. But in this case, my guess is you're going to want to weave these in. Now, if you're afraid of weaving in ends, don't worry. It's going to be fine, and it's totally worth it for the look of this block. I love the way it looks. So let me show you how it works. All right, so in Mosaic Crochet, your pattern right here, it's very uniquely called pattern 6. This is a pattern that is part of a larger blanket pattern, and I just pulled out this stitch pattern to use for our particular block this month. So we're going to chain a multiple of 12 plus 3. I've done 15. Now you can either chain the number you need, a multiple of 12 plus 3, plus you need one more, because then you're going to come back and single crochet across, or you can do a foundation single crochet where you're doing the first row and the chain at the same time, whatever you prefer. If you want to see how to do that foundation crochet, I've got it in a previous block instruction video. I can't remember which one at the moment, but I will link it down below if you want to see how to do that. So for my purposes here, I'm going to be using this green and this blue. It's still the Sueño Haiku yarn that I've been using all along, a DK weight, and I've been using a size H 5mm crochet hook. You use whatever size hook you need to obtain the size square that you're going to need. Mine have turned out to be about 9 inches, and so I determined that for my purposes with my yarn and my H hook that I chained a total of 39 to start with. So that was my starting here, was 39. So in that case, if you're going to do 39, let me just reiterate, if you want to just chain and then work back your single crochets in that chain to get started, you're going to chain 40, because you're going to then single crochet in the second chain from the hook and all the way across, and you will end up with 39 in the end. Or you can start with a foundation single crochet of the 39. So we're going to have two setup rows. We're going to have a setup row with color A. Let me get myself situated again here. All right, so what I've done here with my color A, just for demonstration, I'm doing a smaller piece here. I have 15 chains. So I've chained 15, 16 actually, and then I single crocheted I did my setup row for color A. I single crocheted in the second chain from the hook and all the way across. So now I have my 15 single crochets going all the way across. Now at the very end of the row, here's my last one. What you're going to do at the end of every row is you're going to chain one, you're going to cut your yarn, and you're going to pull it through. So that's the end of setup row 1 with color A. So now we're going to go to color B. And remember, we're always attaching our yarn on the right. We only ever work on the right side of the work. You don't turn like normal crochet. You'll turn and go back across the other way. We don't do that. So we're going to attach our yarn at the right hand side. Here's my color B. And my setup row for color B is to do what's called a border stitch. And for that, I'm going into the very first, both legs of the very first stitch here. See, I have both legs of that on. I'm going to pull my yarn through. And the way I like to attach my yarn is I use the tail, and then I do a single crochet right there, and then I drop the tail. So there I've attached my yarn. Now I'm going to do what's called a border stitch. where I do a single crochet right back in that same spot where I just was. I'm a single crochet, there's my border stitch, and now I'm a single crochet all the way across. However, here's where it becomes different for Mosaic Crochet. When I'm crocheting across, I'm only going to use the back loop of the stitch. So let me get up close and show you. Here is where you would normally go if you were crocheting. You would go into both legs of that stitch. See how the V is there, the chain on the top, and you would go into both legs of that chain. In Mosaic Crochet, I'm only going into the back loop, leaving that front loop here unworked. That'll become more apparent later, but we're going to use that front loop when we come and make these dips down into prior rows. So we're only ever crocheting into the back loop so that we leave those front loops open for us to use later. So I've attached my yarn, color B. I've done my border stitch, which is just a single crochet right there in the beginning. And now I'm going to single crochet in the back loop only, all the way across. And at the very beginning, and when you're working on a particular row, it can look a little stretched out, but don't worry, it'll settle down. So here's my next stitch, and I'm going to go back loop only. Do you see that? How I'm just going into that back loop right there. I'm a single crochet across. This is set up row B until I get to the very last stitch. So the first stitch and the last stitch on every row are a little different, but I've attached my yarn. I've done that single crochet through the whole stitch at the beginning. Now I'm single crocheting in the back loop only, all the way across until I get to the last stitch. Beginning of crochet always feels a little awkward when you don't have too much to hold on to yet, especially for this little 15 stitch sample, but it'll get easier. All right. So I have now gone in the front loop only, and here's my very last stitch. I'm not going to worry about that chain that I did at the end to close off that previous color. You see that little chain there? I just want this last full stitch here. So the very end, I'm going to do a border stitch again, which is I go through the whole stitch, both legs of it, and do a single crochet. Then just like normal, I'm going to cut my yarn. I'm going to chain one to close it off and pull it through. So there we go. That was set up row 2. Now if you can see here, let me see if I can point this out to you. So here's my beginning chain and my single crochets going across. Here's my second row of setup with my second color. Now you see this little line of kind of rope going down the side here, or down the center? That's the front loop of all of those stitches that I didn't go into. There's a front loop right here. So it ends up forming what looks like a little rope kind of going across in between the two rows. That's what we're going to be looking for later as we're looking for that front loop to crochet into. So those are our 2 setup rows. Now let's go ahead and go to row 1. We're going to alternate colors every row. So I don't really have to write down which one is A and which one is B. I just know that this row was blue, so now I'm going to use green. I'm going to attach my yarn like normal. I'm going to go to the very first stitch on the right hand side. Remember, we're always attaching the yarn on the right hand side. I'm going to pull up a loop. You attach the yarn however you like to do it. I like to take my tail and my yarn, pull it through, drop my tail. Now I'm going to do a border stitch. Remember, we always start and end with a border stitch, and that just means I'm going to do a single crochet through that whole stitch that I just went into. It looked like I had an extra loop on there because I used my tail to attach the yarn. All right, row 1, it says work the border stitch. Get my pattern set up here. And then I'm going to do 2 single crochets. So remember, single crochets, front loop only. So here's my whole stitch. I'm just going in the back loop. 2 singles. Now when it tells me to do a double, I'm not going to do a double right here in this stitch. this is where I'm going to go down and I'm going to use that loop. So I'm going to wrap my yarn, and here's the stitch I would normally go into right here. Next stitch ready to go, but I'm going to go down below and I'm going to grab that loop, the front loop from the stitch below, and I'm going to complete my double crochet. So 2 singles, 1 double, 5 singles. Now when I go to do my next single, I want to be sure to skip that blue stitch right back here that I've just done the double in front of it. So I don't want to go here, I want to go here. You see that? I can pull it down and I can see there's that stitch right behind. I don't want to go there because I've done a double already in front of that stitch. So I'm going to go in the next one. If you haven't done this before, it might seem a little awkward, but once you get going, I promise it makes a lot of sense. So we're going to do 5 singles in the back loop only, always. 5, and now I'm going to do a double again. So I'm going to look at, here's where the next stitches I would go into if I were doing a single. I'm going to go down below and I'm going to grab down there. So I'm going to wrap my yarn, go down, and I'm going to grab the front loop of that stitch below. Now you'll notice, because I'm alternating colors every other round, it's easy for me to see where that loop below is that I need to go into because it's the same color of the yarn I'm currently using. I'm skipping the blue and going down and catching below. Now you see how it kind of pulls that loop up as I do that double crochet? It'll settle down. Look, over here is the one that I've already done. It settles down. When you first do it, it pulls it up and looks like it's going to be very misshapen, but it's not. So double, and now I'm going to do 3 singles. Again, I'm going to skip that stitch there that has the double in front of it, and I'm going to go here. So 3 singles. If you were to single crochet into that stitch that's behind the double you just did, then you're increasing and you're going to have a little bit of a problem. Your stitch count's going to be off. Things aren't going to look right. So here's 3. And now I'm at the end. You would repeat that all the way across, by the way, for however many you've got going. But I've just got 1 repeat going on this sample. But what you would do is you do the 3 singles and then you would go back to the bracketed portion and repeat that again. So you do 2 singles, 1 double, 5 singles, 1 double, 3 singles, all the way across. You just repeat that till you get to the end. I've got 1 stitch left here. Here's my last stitch. Remember, this is the other little thing up here. That's just the chain from when I finished off my blue. So I want the last actual stitch. I'm going to do a border stitch there, which means a single crochet through the entire stitch, both legs, not leaving a front loop open there. Single crochet. I'm going to cut my yarn, and then I'm going to chain and pull it through and pull it tight. So there's row 1. So you can start to see we've got a little bit of a pattern going. Let's go to row 2. I know that row 2 is going to be blue because I've just finished green. So I'm going to take my blue. I'm going to go into the very first stitch over here on the end, way on the end, the whole stitch, both legs of it. I'm going to attach my blue. Again, you attach any way you like to do it. I like to hold the tail and the yarn, pull it through, and then drop my tail. Now my border stitch is just going to be a single crochet back into that same spot where I've just attached the yarn. So I'm going to go back in there, do a single crochet, and now row 2 says work the border stitch. That was that. Now I'm going to do 7 singles. So I'm going to go right here into the back loop of that first one. We're going to do 7, 1 in every stitch all the way across to 7, back loop only. See, we're leaving that front loop open for if we need it later. There was 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now I'm going to do 1 double. Remember, whenever it says double, I'm going down and I'm getting the stitch below in the same color that I'm using. So right here is the next stitch that I would crochet into, but here is the loop I want to pick up, the front loop from the row below. So I'm going to wrap my yarn, go down and grab that loop right there, and finish my double crochet. And now I'm going to do one single and one double. So again, I'm going to skip this stitch here and put a single in the next stitch, not the one I just did the double in front of. And now I'm going to do another double. So rather than go into this stitch here, I'm going down below, getting the front of that blue stitch a couple rows below, doing a double into it, and now two singles. Skipping that one there that I just did, going to the one next to it. If you're having trouble seeing it, pull it apart a little bit so you can see that stitch behind. That's the one I'm skipping because that's behind the double I just did, and I'm going into the next available single. I'm doing two. You repeat that across. I'm at the end, so I have my last stitch here. I'm going to do my border stitch, which is just a single crochet through the entire stitch. I'm going to cut my yarn. I'm going to do a chain and pull it through and tighten it. That was row 2. Now you can kind of start seeing the pattern form a little bit. You're going to be paying attention to your pattern as you do it, doing however many doubles and singles it tells you, but eventually you're going to be able to see, okay, that this is a double on this side of the double and a single, and so it begins forming this pattern. Let me pull this back over here again and show you. So you end up with, here was my beginning. So you end up with a double and a single and a double over this double here. And then you continue on, and then you've got a double and a single and a double over this here. You begin to see, and it becomes a little more intuitive where the different doubles need to go, because you'll start to see that pattern form. But let's carry on. So row 3, we're going to go to the blue because I just finished green. Again, we're going to attach it over on the right hand side. At the very edge, nope, I just finished blue. Get my work all turned around while I'm talking to you. So here's my bottom, here's my chain edge. I just finished blue, so I'm going to attach green. So I'm going to go at the very edge stitch. I'm going to attach my yarn in the way that you want to attach it. You'll attach yours. We're going to do a border stitch here, which is a single crochet right into that same spot you just attached your yarn. And now row 3 tells me border stitch and then do 6 singles and then a double. So we're going to go 6 singles in the back loop only, leaving that front loop available for us to use at another time if we need it. You won't use all of them. 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now I'm going to do a double. Now if you look, you can see that this double is going to be right here, which is kind of stacking. Here's a double in green, here's a double in blue, there's going to be a double in green stacking just to the right of that. So that makes sense. If you watch your pattern, you can kind of tell if you're off. So I'm going to put a double right here in this green front loop down below. And now it tells me to do 3 singles. Again, I'm skipping that one I just put a double in front of. I'm going to go here and do 3 singles in the back loops only. And I'm going to do another double. And that double, again, you can see it's going to stack just over here to the left of this double from the previous row. So we're forming a pattern going up. So wrap my yarn, go down and get the front loop of that green down below and do a double. And now the pattern tells me to do 1 more single. And I can see here I have 1 more single, and then I have my end stitch, my border stitch. So that makes sense to me. I'm going to go ahead and do the single here. And you're going to repeat that, what's in the brackets, all the way across. And now I'm going to do the border stitch. So that's just a single through the entire stitch at the end, not the back loop only. As always, cut my yarn, do a chain and pull it through. That was row 3. So again, you can see the pattern starting to form here. Now row 4, I just did green, so now I'm going to do blue. Now when I'm just working 15 stitches here, it's going pretty quickly and it seems like I'm just changing yarn every other second. You're going to have, again, what, 39? Is that what I said? Yep, I chained 39. So it'll take you a few more minutes to do a row, but it still gets a little tedious, some might say, changing your yarn all the time. But again, that end result is so worth it. So I'm attaching my blue. I'm going to drop my tail. I'm going to do my border stitch, which is a single crochet into the entire stitch that I just attached my yarn to. Now, row 4 tells me to do 5 singles, 1 double. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say 5 singles in the back loop only. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm going to do a double. Now look, I can kind of tell that I'm in the right spot because this double right here is going to stack up just to the right of these doubles. See how they're going up? So I can give it the sanity check and know that that makes sense. I think that's correct. So I'm going to do a double down by grabbing that blue down below the front loop. And now it tells me to do 5 singles again skipping the one I just put the double in front of. So I'll do 5 singles, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I'm going to do one more double. So let's do a sanity check. Does it make sense? It does. Because now I'm going to put a double right here, and these doubles are stacking up here, so it's going to be just to the left of the previous. Makes sense. So I'll come down and grab that front loop of the blue down below, do a double. That's the end of your repeat there, so you'll then continue repeating what's in the brackets all the way across your row until you have your 1 stitch left at the end to do your border stitch. I'm just going to do a single crochet right in there through the whole stitch, not just the back loop. Cut my yarn, make a chain and pull it through. That was row 4. See the pattern forming here with the little V of the doubles that are stacking up? All right, row 5. Do the green because we just did blue. Easy to keep track of that way, isn't it? I'm going to go to the very edge. I'm going to attach my yarn. This is a 6-row repeat, so I'm going to get you all the way through all 6 rows. This is row 5. Row 5 says work the border stitch. And we already know that a border stitch is a single crochet through the entire stitch. And at the beginning of the row, we're going right where we've attached the yarn. And now we're going to do 1 double. So now I want to look and see, okay, where am I going to grab that double? Sometimes at the very beginning of the row, if I'm not exactly sure where that, I mean, it's going to go right here. I know where it's going to go, but I want to show you. I know that I need to do a double, 3 singles, and a double. Now, if I'm going to do a double, 3 singles, and a double, that second double is going to stack just to the right of these previous doubles. So sometimes I'll go over and I'll count backwards. Okay, my double's going to go here. So then my 3 singles are going to go there. So here's where my double's going to go. Right this stitch. Can you see that? So I'm going to go down below. Here's the one I'm in at the beginning. And that's the next stitch right there, but I'm going to go down below. So don't be afraid to look over and count backwards if you feel like you're just not quite sure, need to get your bearings. So I'm going to go a double here. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because I don't have anything to measure, sanity check this double placement against. Here, I know that they're stacking up this way, so the sanity check tells me that the next double is going to go just to the right of the one below it. In this particular case, I don't have any here to stack up, and so then I'm counting backwards just to make sure. So there was 1 double. Now I'm going to do 3 singles, again skipping that 1 stitch behind the double and using the back loop only. You're going to get tired of me saying that, but I just want to keep reminding you. Because if for some reason you go through the entire stitch, then in another row, you're not going to have that front loop to use. Okay, so there's my 3 singles, and here's my double that's going to stack just to the right of that double below, which makes sense. And now I'm going to do 7 singles, skipping the one that I just put the double in front of. I'm just going to do 7 singles in the back loop only. 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 and 7, and then I'm going to do my border stitch, which is through the entire last stitch. And as you see me do, cut my yarn, chain, and pull through. All right, last row of the repeat is row 6. So I'm going to go ahead and get my next color yarn, which for me is blue. I'm going to attach it at the very first stitch over here. Now when you're leaving your tails at the beginning and at the end, I'm going to do the border stitch here, which is just a single crochet right in the same spot. When you're leaving your tails at the beginning when you're attaching the new yarn, and at the end when you're cutting and finishing off your yarn, it doesn't matter how long of a tail you leave. You just want to be able to weave that in comfortably. Chances are you're going to, weave it in and then cut off a bunch of this, but I don't want to end up with a tiny little stub to try to weave in, because that's just difficult and not much fun. So I usually leave a little bit more tail than I think I might need, just to make it a little easier on myself, my future self, who's going to be weaving all those ends in. All right, row 6, work the border stitch, and then I'm going to do 1 single, so right here. And now we're going to watch this start to make sense again. Now I'm going to do a double, and you see how the double is going to stack up just to the left of this double in the row below? There's where my double's going to go. I'm going down to get the same color front loop to complete my double. That makes it easier. I don't have to try to figure out where am I going. Am I going down here? Am I going there? I'm going down to the front loop of the same color that I'm using, because we're alternating colors every other row. If you were using more than 2 colors, then you wouldn't be able to use that as your guide. You certainly could use 3 or 4 colors to do mosaic crochet. That's absolutely normal. But in our purposes here, I'm using 2 colors so that I can tell you that when I'm going down to get my double, I'm grabbing the same color. So I would recommend your first couple mosaic crochet projects to only use 2 colors, so it's a little easier for you to identify where that is. Once you start using more colors, then you'll be going down and grabbing a different color down below, which is absolutely fine. Just might be a little harder to do right at the beginning. Okay, back to my pattern. So I did 1 single, 1 double. I'm going to do a single again, and now I'm going to do another double. Again, it makes sense to me because it's stacking up to the right of this one, where these are all going up to the right. So a double's going to go here. I usually just like to watch that every row on my mosaic crochet to make, does that make sense? Does that look like that's where that should go? Before I get all off track, because then it causes trouble. All right, I did a single, I did a double, I did a single, I did a double. Now I'm going to do 8 singles. Back loop only. 8 singles. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now for a regular size square, you'll then be continuing your repeat by going back to the beginning of the bracket, which would be another single, a double, a single, a double, 8 singles. Because I'm doing a smaller piece here, I've finished my repeat, and now I'm going to do my border stitch. So that's just that single crochet right in that last stitch. Cut my yarn, chain, and pull it through. So there are 6 rows. It's a little difficult to see on this small piece here, but there's our 6 row repeat. You can see the doubles kind of forming a V here. Then we've got another group of doubles getting started over here that are going to go up this direction. Let's look at that on our finished. So here's the doubles that are going up to the right, and then it starts with some other ones going another direction. Really makes a pretty pattern. You're going to repeat that 6 row repeat until, again, you get to your height desired. For me, mine are about 9 inches square. That meant 39 stitches to chain at the beginning. And then I continued up, and it looks like I did 6 repeats of the 6 rows, according to my little hash marks, to get my height that I wanted. What I found when I was doing it, after I did 2 repeats, I saw that it was about 3 inches tall. I measured it. And so I knew, okay, I'm going to probably do about 6. And when I got 6 of them done, I measured and it was correct. So I was able to stop there. So here's your 6 row repeat. You're going to continue that probably about 6 times. Again, you can stop in the middle of the repeat if you've reached your height. You can stop at row 3 or 4 or 5, it doesn't matter, and then just you'll be finished. Now you're going to be weaving all these ends in, and then you'll be attaching your blocks just like you would normally. If you have any problems or questions, as always, please let me know. You're always welcome to come in anytime the shop is open. I'm happy to help you or get you back on track if you've gotten off track or have questions. You can rewatch these videos as many times as you want. You can even slow them down. I've put some different chapter markings in so that you can skip ahead to a certain row if you would just like to watch that row again. Please give me a little comment below. Let me know what you think of the video or if there's anything else you'd like to see. And I look forward to seeing your finished products. Have fun.